Hello and welcome to another episode of our Cheyenne and Arapaho Productions podcast here on Cheyenne and Arapaho Productions. I'm Darren Brown. I'm the senior content producer here. And today with me I have Albert Old Crow, who is the, let's just say fairly newly elected Tribal Council Coordinator of the Cheyenne and Arapaho Tribes. Thanks for being here, sir.
You're quite welcome.
All right, let's just jump in. So you took office on January 2nd of this year, basically?
Yes. It was on a Thursday. It's burned into my mind.
It was 4:00. No, it was a rainy day. Well, so and the job it runs for basically one calendar year. Is that correct?
One calendar year. I was the first individual that was hit with not being able to take office immediately upon election.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah.
Prior to, whenever an individual, the results were given, they assumed office there on the spot.
I've seen that happen a few times. I guess some things have changed, and we can get into that if we want to. But first things I want to get into is I know that if you've attended a tribal council meeting in the last 3, 4, 5 years, people should know who you are by now. I know I've certainly seen you out there doing your thing. I think you've run the meetings a couple times, right?
Several times I've been fortunate, honored to chair the meeting.
Yeah, chair of the meeting. I couldn't think of the word. There it is. And that in itself can be itself a job, right?
That is quite a task. The first year or two that I did that, it was whenever there was a lot of dissension. People were yelling and arguing and going back and forth, and I had to step up and say, look, we're Cheyenne and Arapaho people. Let's be nice to each other. And
you're also fighting the clock. Because I know that in years past there have been, I look at it, I'm like, man, there's a lot of resolutions here. I don't know if we're going to get through half of them, but it's happened in the past few years. We've gotten through them. That's something that I didn't see happening.
It took me about 4 years of chairing the meeting to figure out that when we took a lunch break, that we lost quorum.
Happened many times, yeah.
As chairperson, I said, we are going to work through lunch. Those of you that pass out, we'll give you CPR and wake you up before the end of the meeting.
Well, so I have to ask, what made you want to become Tribal Council Coordinator, sir?
Just the fact that I believe there needed to be more transparency. There needed to be accountability, and thought I could possibly do a good job.
So now we're in going on 4 months in.
We're approaching the 4th month.
How's it feel?
So far, it feels great. I have great support. Ramona Talbert is fantastic. She has shown me a lot. She has prior experience in being tribal council coordinator assistant. And without her, I would be lost. I would just be sitting in my closet. I call it my closet because it's a very small opening in the wall. And I would just be sitting in there wondering, what can I do next?
It's because we look at a copy of the actual the requirements here, and I think that maybe not everyone knows what all is involved. There are some criteria you have to meet, and we won't get into all that. But I know that, like I said, I met you some years ago when you were you were chairing the meeting, and I wanted to get into. Well, you know what? I should have done at the beginning. As Native people, we're supposed to introduce ourselves, and for people who don't know who exactly you are, tell us about you, where you're from, who your people are, and all that good stuff, Albert.
Okay, I'll do my same intro that I do on my radio station.
Uh-oh. We got time for this?
No, all I say is that my name is Albert Old Crow, come to you from the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribe, and that I am originally from Hammond, Oklahoma. Graduated high school in 1973 and graduated college from the University of Central Oklahoma in 1980. Been in Dallas since 1987. Went down there to work for a truck driving school with no truck driving experience. Ended up running the place. And most recently retired or quit Head Start of Greater Dallas. I've been there since 2003 to take this position.
And so some people look at it and think, well, that's a little bit of I mean, it sounds like you had a good thing going down there. And
yes.
I mean, some people might call that a sacrifice. I got to ask you why. Why would you do that?
Because of the challenge. I like challenges. From my athletic days, somebody saying, "Oh, you can't do that." Watch. Hold my beer. And so, initially, I was planning on working there at Head Start until I was about 75. I'm 70 years old. I was working another 4 or 5 years. Recently applied for my Social Security benefits. Got approved for that. Have received my first checks, and I like that, double dipping. And so it being available to put my hat into the ring and run for this position, it worked out real well. Previously, I had overseen the selection of tribal council coordinator, and the voting differential between first and second place had usually been between 10 and 20 votes. This past year, the second individual that had votes closest to me was 85 votes away. So a lot of people had been paying attention, and they thought I could do a job.
And I think you said it's you wanted a challenge. Hey, guess what? Here you are. It's all yours, baby.
Yes. Yeah, most definitely. And with Ramona's experience of you should go here, you should attend this meeting, you should do this meeting, I have made those meetings, made myself known that I was in the audience, up at the table, however you want to put it. And they have accepted me. Some have even asked questions of me. Some just been welcoming. So that's a huge thing to me.
Well, let's talk about if someone said, Albert, what to you? I mean, obviously, with this job, there's probably a number of things, and you're thinking, I like to do this, and that's how I think too. I want to do this and this and this, but then, what to you though? What is the one thing that you really want to accomplish in this position?
I would have to say to make the position more accessible to the people through the coordinator's efforts and actions.
All right. Well, let's get into that. I know that we've spoken with you very recently. You contacted us about putting together a kind of an explainer video about resolutions. So, from my outside observation, it's a thing where I kind of say you can't. What's the saying? It's like if you can't really watch the game if you don't know who the players are. You got to have a scorecard or something like that. I forget how the saying goes. But when it comes to resolutions, there's a whole process involved, and I think that for people who may not realize it, it's like because I've been to a number of councils where there are a lot of resolutions, and I think, man, there's no way we're going to get all these. But what happens at the tribal council meeting is like they get stricken. And people will say, who wrote this? Come up, and no one comes up. Or things, I mean, the same things happen. And so I think in the past, there have been a lot of procedural issues regarding the resolutions. Is that kind of what you're trying to do with these explainers and stuff?
Yes. And also, one other avenue that I wanted to bring to this office is to make use of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT.
Wow. Now we're talking.
And because with ChatGPT, the idea of formulating a resolution and seeing if it is in accordance with our Constitution, it happens. It can double check that. And so, because I would always get tripped up, confused on the terminology, whereas be it further resolved, be it resolved. And it's like, I get lost in that.
Yeah, people don't talk that way. Well, Mr. Okro, whereas no one really speaks that way. Thank goodness.
Yes.
But I think I think that's probably a good place to start, because as a member of a voting body like the council is, there needs to be it would seem to be there would need to be more of a common understanding of how it all works together.
And with myself, because my daughter's one that introduced me to ChatGPT. Ramona has taken right to it. Other people have taken right to it. Because for instance, I can write a brief guideline, throw it against ChatGPT's wall, and it makes their edited version that they throw back at me makes me look so intelligent. And I'm like, look at me. And so the same thing with anything that I do now. It's like, well, have you put it into ChatGPT?
Another thing you and I had spoken about was, and this gets brought up at the tribal council every year, I've noticed, is that I guess you might say maybe you don't expect everyone to read through the entire tribal constitution. However, it would go a long way to help to have a really good understanding. I don't think we expect any one of us to know that the Constitution inside and out, but you should. We could say maybe you should, because there are a lot of things. The last thing you would want is for a resolution to get brought up that has no chance.
Exactly, and that's why with implementation of ChatGPT, throw it against our Constitution and see, well, this is not going to work, because you got this section here, you got this piece here that it goes against, and we cannot proceed any further.
You said earlier, I know that you've made some community meetings, and it's still early. You've got a whole lot of year left to do some more. But what kind of feedback have you gotten from those community meetings?
Very good feedback. Matter of fact, with the Veterans Department, the department head, Mr. Pratt, Harvey Pratt, he asked me to see about making contact with the Kiowas and see if we could possibly unite our efforts with them. And so I felt really good about that.
Unite efforts as far as how?
They are wanting to possibly unite. What he's wanting to concentrate on is the tribes west of I-35, see if we can come together and form a coalition. And if that coalition gets strong enough, include the tribes on the east side of I-35. And this is just to make the veterans more powerful in bringing their needs and wants to the surface.
I've always told people, those tribes on the east side, they've been in the game a lot longer, and they know how the game is played. They've had more opportunity to see how it's played, right?
Well, and two, that goes with the more educated.
Yeah.
Because the Constitution says that the legislators, high school diploma, minimum high school diploma, GED. And I mean, I'm glad that people have their high school diploma and GED. But whenever one goes out and gets a 4-year degree, you have more exposure to the different parts of life.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, it's like, oh, you have this accessibility to that. You have more avenues to bring in to help your cause.
We talked about community meetings, and I asked, what kind of. It sounds like you've gotten a lot of positive feedback, but I would assume that there has been some negative feedback, and that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just asking, how's that going?
Not yet.
He said, "Not yet." Write
Not
that
yet.
down.
It's
still early, But
yes.
but that's part of the job.
I liken it to a referee on the basketball court. When they make a call, half's going to be happy, half is going to be booing. And so just go with what I see and believe to be the best and go from there.
So we talked about, I know the implementation or the work on the resolutions. If that's the most important thing, what's 1A or do you have like a list of like 5, 6, 10 things you want to do? Or, do you realistically think you can get through items 1 through 10, or are you working on the first 3? How's it going?
Oh, wow. On that, it would be, because the tribal council coordinator position is responsible for putting the budget together from all the different departments. And that was the task that had me scratching my head wondering, how am I going to do that? Because you've got all these different departments. They had their own format on how they threw their numbers together. I'm not a numbers person unless we're playing pool. But then out of what all of that entails, thank goodness that Ramona has numbers experience. She enjoys working with numbers. She can look at, matter of fact, we just had a meeting with Treasury and they were zipping through and I was just like, I'm lost. And looked over Ramona. She was all calm, cool, and collected. She understood all that they were talking about. And what all of that to say this is that the Treasury Department is getting everyone where that they're on the same playlist. Whereas this one's not doing Spotify, this one's not doing...
Yeah. I've heard, I've been in a couple of meetings here and there where I understand things are moving towards, really, literally getting on the same page.
That would help tremendously. That way, when it comes time to formulate, send it to the printer, it's no problem.
All right. Well, what else you got?
Oh, the other thing that would be, well, that was the main thing right there. Was just the budget. Everything else, I've got what I believe to be a strong enough mind where that can handle whatever's thrown in front of me. Just like deal with going to Denver March. Had no experience in that. Said, think I'll give it a shot, and was able to do all of that, visit with you all a few times, and great visits with you, as a matter of fact. I want to commend you on that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, because you and Hawk, you made me feel comfortable, and I really appreciated that.
Thanks, sir.
Yes.
I know that you mentioned, and you touched on just a little bit earlier, and like I said, I've been with the tribes now for 13 years, and I haven't been a tribal council all 13 of those. I know, however, I've been to enough and seen. I have seen the dissension that you mentioned a little bit earlier, and really in past years, it has calmed down quite a bit. However, I know that one thing I have noticed is that, it does get contentious, but you expect that when you've got so many people. And I don't think that that's really anything out of the ordinary when you have a big meeting of people like that. But what I have seen, from my own, just as an observer, is the tribal council coordinator is in a position to put out information as they see fit regarding things that the tribal leadership is doing, things that they maybe things they agree with and they don't, and information about transparency here and there. And I know for, like I said, I'm coming at this as an outside observer that when you put out information, especially via social media, there are some people who will believe things like that, and some people who, depending on who puts it out, they're gonna not believe it like that.
Yes.
So, and it's split. But what I mean, I'm not. This is a long question here. I'm just trying to argue.
Okay.
What I mean is, it'd be really easy in that position to put out a lot of misinformation.
Yes.
And I think that's probably happened here or there over the years.
I believe so.
I'm just guessing.
Yes.
So how are you going to manage that?
Go back to the most recent experience I had was with the Denver March powwow, and in doing that, I rode the bus. There were 47 of us on the bus.
On that particular bus.
On that particular bus, there were two buses. My bus had 47. And on the bus, and once we got to Colorado and interacting with elders, and when it was mentioned, I did not pry, did not probe. They said, "Oh yeah, this is my third time here." Oh, okay, 3 years in a row. Oh yeah. I'm like, okay. That has been a point of contention for a lot of people. And so when I get back and I'm doing my Denver March powwow recap, and it's like, do I mention that or not? Well, that was my experience. And so I threw it out there. And that opened another can of worms.
I'm sure it did. And look, that's, we don't have time to get into that, but that should be, in my opinion, my humble opinion, that should be discussed, and that probably shouldn't happen. But I'm not in this. I'm not in this argument.
Yeah, you don't have a dog in the fight.
Yeah.
Yes.
But let's get into more of that. There's going to be a lot of times when anything you say, there's going to be a ton of people who agree and a ton of people who don't disagree. How are you going to handle that?
And I'm okay with that. And it's like, well, that's my experience. That's the way I seen it. If you were in my position, you may see it differently. And leave it at that. Mm-hmm. That way I don't lose any sleep over it.
But you do understand things that go out on social media. People quickly form opinions.
Oh, yes.
Of not only maybe not just that person, but it could be of everything that person represents.
Well, and then too, on social media, a lot of people on social media right now don't know who Paul Harvey is.
Yeah,
I grew up with Paul Harvey, and he would always say,
"That's the way it is."
No, that's the rest of the story. That's the rest of the story. Not everybody tells the whole story. They give just enough. It's about like whenever I got caught in high school doing something, I would give just enough information to where it made me look good until the rest of the story came out, and then I had egg on my face. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness my athletic ability allowed me the opportunity to skate a lot of that. They overlooked a lot of stuff like that. And so out of that, this thing of social media, I don't engage and get into arguments on that.
Yeah, I believe, this is just me, but I personally believe that you can only put out the truth as you know it,
as I see it, yes.
The truth that you've worked on getting. You can't, as a news for all those years, and you can't just go with one source. You want to get a couple or three, ideally. Get it first, but get it right.
Yes. Well, and then too, I attend 12-step meetings, and on that, I said, we each have our own truth. And I'll usually pull out a dollar bill, and I'll say, describe what's on this dollar bill. They will describe one side of the dollar bill. I will describe the other side. We're different, but it's the same dollar bill. It's the same with truth as you see it, as I see it. It's what you see. And I can't fault you for what you see. Oh, no, your side's wrong. No. And so that helps me in not getting in the muck of things.
I think that's probably the best thing. I mean, with any sort of situation, any kind of when you're dealing with social media, like I said, I put stuff on my personal page. If you don't like it, I don't care. It's my personal page. But I'm not going to. What I'm not going to do is engage you on it. I'll just delete some. I'll just delete people.
One click and they're gone.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't. What James Brown had a song like that said, "Papa, don't take no mess." I ain't got time for that mess, Albert.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear that you had this job where was one of the things where it's just going to be kind of controversial because that position has historically been that way.
Yes.
But you accepted that coming in.
Yes. I'm not going to cry around, why they treat me like this? Hey, I volunteered for it. I put my neck in the noose, and I'm okay with that.
Well, let me ask you this. So along those lines, is there something different that you want to do with this position that maybe hasn't been done before? Or, I mean, obviously everybody wants to put their own spin on it, their own stamp on it. What do you plan on doing?
I was prodded by my daughter. She's heavy into IT, to where that from now on, each tribal council coordinator has certain duties and responsibilities that takes place throughout the year. That way there is accountability. If the coordinator does not do that, then come re-election time, it's like, hey, you didn't meet up with what is laid out here. Because on this, see, I can look at loopholes and find loopholes. This right here, I could do this from across the world. But I chose to come into the office every day, be visible, be accessible, for tribal members to come in and say, hello, what in the blank are you doing? Things like that. Because right now, whenever we get to end of my term, say I'm not voted back in, the new person could essentially work from home, not ever come in, not be visible, pretty much not take care of the job, what I believe should be a job.
You said, I've noticed it number of times I've seen I was going to say I've seen your name in the paper. Yeah, police blotter. No.
I was going to say, it's been many years since that's happened.
What I meant to say was in the Cheyenne and Arapaho Tribal Tribune, there's been a couple articles, maybe things you wrote about something, and it puts out all your information in your personal cell. I'm like, okay, hey man, good for you. Well,
that's not personal cell. That's tribal cell.
Okay, well,
anyway. No, that only comes up at the truck stop.
Well, if people want that one, what is that number, by the way? No, I guess what I'm asking is how much of that. How many people do come and see you or find you or call you?
For right now, less than, I can count them all on one hand.
Why do you think that is?
Maybe I'm doing such a great job.
Okay, let's flip that.
I have no idea.
But let me ask you this. Of those few people, how's that gone?
It's gone real well.
Really?
Yes.
Did they ask you the tough questions? No.
They just stepped in and say, hey, I would say hello.
Now, see, and here's one thing. There are a lot of keyboard warriors out there.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are.
People who would say things online who would never say that to your face. And it's happened to all of us. It just happened to all of us. It is. It's, and I get it. But I think, when you put that cell phone number out there, I was like, well, that's kind of bold, because but I think there are many jobs like the one you're talking about, but that's one that requires something like that, I think.
Yes.
I mean, you have to be willing to.
Well, for instance, we made the decision to do what we call listening sessions, and we did that during the day, like around noon, sometimes in the afternoon. Not much participation, and so out of that, we made the decision to have it in the evenings.
When more people have, and they're not at work, yeah.
Those that are working have an opportunity to do what they got to do, and then make their way to the meeting. Just to say hello, at least being able to see a face where it becomes common, not intimidating. Of, oh, I wonder what he's up to. Mm-hmm. No, it's nothing like that. It's like, hey, if you have any questions, if I can help you write a resolution, I know ChatGPT, and we can get it done. Mm-hmm. And so out of that, I'm hoping, because we've already done one session of going to all the communities with ERC buildings. The month of April, we're going to hit them again. Mm-hmm. In the evening time.
Oh, okay, so you're starting those evening ones. Okay. Well, I can see how I would think it'll be a different crowd. I mean, and it may be better. Hopefully.
The most we had were, I think we had 6 people at Clinton. Okay. Hammond was second with 4. And then I had some say, well, you don't do anything till at least 4 o'clock in the afternoon because they're not awake yet. And I'm like, what?
Well, we're getting towards the end of this, but I wanted to let you give you one more thing to kind of talk to the people who you want, your tribal members here. Just what do you want them to know, and what do you hope that they take upon themselves to get out of this whole tribal council thing? Because it really, it's not an elected body, and it's kind of unique that way.
Yes. The takeaway that I would have is come and ask. If you have any question, if I don't know the answer, we'll find
Ramona.
We'll find Ramona. Where is she? Yes. Because like I said, she's had experience in this before, mm-hmm. and been very helpful, but also in, say they have something with elder care, say they have something with the Hope program, I can say, come on, let's go and talk. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we can come to some resolution. And main thing is to not be unapproachable. That's my main thing, is to always be available any way that I can. And the only way I can be available is being in office, publish telephone numbers, publish my email so that people can make contact.
Well, like I said, we mentioned you're just a few months in here and got a little while ago, and it was a challenge to begin with, so I'm sure that it will remain a challenge. And yes. I want to see what this guy looks like after tribal council in October.
I went to my person that trims my hair, mm-hmm. gets it off my neckline, and she says, "What are you doing different? Your hair is thinning out."
I thought you were going to say grayer. I get that one a lot.
No, it can get grayer, but she says your hair is thinning out. And I said, well, it's those ones that's pulling on my hair. No.
Well, and with that, with Albert's words of wisdom, we'll want to let you go. But I want to say thank you for coming and doing this. I know that this is hopefully something we're going to do with hopefully from now on, we'll have every tribal council coordinator, whoever it is, come in and get this thing going. And yeah, absolutely.
Well, you had made mention the deal of newspaper articles that we publish. I do a weekly update. Anybody that's interested in that, give me your email. You get on the list. With the newspaper, we do a monthly update of what I did. Because before I was in this position, I often wondered, what are the elected officials doing? What have they done this week?
Yeah,
what have they done this month?
I think, you're not the only. I mean, I know things are going on. But I don't know the specifics. I think a lot of people like that probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's why this deal of a weekly update. If I sat on my butt for 3 days and didn't come into the office.
Write that down.
I'm going to be honest and say I didn't come in.
Sat on butt for 3 days. Okay.
Oh, on a bus. On a bus.
On a bus.
Wednesday, Thursday,
I was on
Friday.
No, I wasn't on the bus, but I was traveling along with you.
Yes, you were shadowing me.
Albert, thank you so much for being here. Ha-ho. And I want to also thank you all for joining us on this episode of our Cheyenne and Arapaho Productions podcast. We will see you next time.